Young and the Restless spoilers. Adam Newman leaned back in his chair, his face a mask of contemplation, as he stared at the man sitting across from him. Jack Abbott, usually the epitome of poise and control, now wore an expression of unease, his brow furrowed as he waited for Adam to speak. Tension in the room was palpable, the silence thick with unspoken truths and half-revealed secrets. Adam had called Jack to this private meeting for a reason, and the moment had finally arrived to unveil the information that had been festering beneath the surface for far too long. "Jack," Adam began, his voice measured but firm, "there's something you need to know about Glissade." Jack's eyes narrowed as he leaned in, his instincts as sharp as ever. He had suspected for some time that something was off about Glissade, the enigmatic company that had recently become a thorn in Jabot's side. Jack's suspicions had only grown when he noticed the subtle but deliberate ways in which Glissade seemed to be targeting Jabot, almost as if it were a personal vendetta. And now, here was Adam, ready to confirm his worst fears. "Victor is behind it, isn't he?" Jack's voice was a low growl, his anger simmering just beneath the surface. Adam didn't flinch. He knew the impact his words would have, but there was no turning back now. "Yes, Jack, Victor has been pulling the strings all along. He's using Glissade to undermine Jabot, and he's doing it through Audra and Kyle." Jack's heart pounded in his chest, a mix of fury and betrayal surging through his veins. He had always known Victor Newman was capable of despicable acts, but this was beyond anything he had imagined. The thought of Victor manipulating his own family, using Kyle as a pawn in his twisted game, was enough to make Jack's blood boil. "That son of a bitch," Jack muttered under his breath, his hands clenching into fists. "I knew Victor was involved, but I didn't have the proof. Now, thanks to you, I do." Adam nodded, his expression somber. He knew that by revealing this information, he was putting himself at odds with his father, but it was a risk he was willing to take. Adam had his own reasons for wanting to see Victor brought down, and if aligning with Jack could help accomplish that, then so be it. "You need to be careful, Jack," Adam warned, tone grave. "Victor isn't going to take this lying down. He's ruthless, and he won't hesitate to destroy anyone who gets in his way." Jack's eyes blazed with determination. He had never been one to back down from a fight, especially when it came to protecting his family and his company. But this was personal. Victor had crossed a line, and Jack was ready to do whatever it took to make him pay. "I don't intend to hide behind lawyers or corporate maneuvers, Adam," Jack said, his voice steely. "I'm going to confront Victor head-on, man to man. I'm not going to let him get away with this." Adam's lips curled into a small... With that, the two men parted ways, both knowing that the battle ahead would be fierce and unforgiving. Jack wasted no time. He left the meeting with Adam and made a beeline for Newman Enterprises, the anger fueling every step. The elevator ride to Victor's office felt interminable, the seconds ticking by as Jack's rage continued to build. When the doors finally slid open, Jack stormed into the office without so much as a knock. Victor looked up from his desk, surprised but not entirely shocked to see Jack standing there, his face a mask of fury. Victor had always prided himself on being one step ahead of his enemies, but he hadn't anticipated Jack learning the truth so quickly. "Jack," Victor began, his tone deceptively calm, "what brings you here?" Jack didn't bother with pleasantries. He marched up to Victor's desk, his eyes blazing with anger. "Don't play games with me, Victor. I know what you've been up to with Glissade. You've been using Audra and Kyle to sabotage Jabot. I want to know why." Victor's expression remained impassive, but there was a glint of amusement in his eyes. "Jack, business is business. If you're too weak to protect Jabot, then perhaps you shouldn't be in charge." That was the final straw. Jack's patience snapped like a taut wire. He lunged across the desk, grabbing Victor by the collar and pulling him to his feet. "You bastard!" Jack roared, his voice echoing off the walls of the office. "You think you can just manipulate everyone around you and get away with it?" Victor, despite his age and the numerous health issues that plagued him, managed to maintain his composure. But Jack's grip tightened around Victor's throat, and for the first time, Victor felt a flicker of fear. Jack was a man pushed to the edge, and Victor knew that in his current state, anything was possible. The two men struggled, their movements clumsy and fueled by adrenaline. Victor managed to free himself from Jack's grip momentarily, but Jack wasn't done. He lunged again, this time with even more force, sending Victor crashing to the ground. The impact was hard, and Victor's body crumpled beneath him. For a moment, the room was silent, save for the heavy breathing of both men. Jack stood over Victor, his chest heaving with exertion and rage. But then, something shifted. The realization of what he had just done began to sink in. Victor lay motionless on the floor, his face pale and his breathing shallow. "Victor?" Jack's voice wavered, the anger suddenly replaced by a cold, creeping fear. "Victor, get up." But Victor didn't move. Panic set in as Jack knelt down beside Victor, shaking him gently. "Come on, Victor, don't do this," Jack pleaded, his voice trembling. Victor remained unresponsive, his eyes closed and his breathing faint. Jack's heart pounded in his chest, the enormity of the situation crashing down on him like a tidal wave. He had just attacked Victor Newman, a man who, despite Jack knew he needed to act fast. But instead of calling for help, his mind was clouded with fear and confusion. Couldn't be seen here. Not like this. If anyone found out what had happened, it could ruin everything. His reputation, his company, his life. Without another thought, Jack bolted from the office, his footsteps echoing down the empty corridors. He didn't stop until he was outside, cool night air hitting him like a slap in the face. His hands were shaking, his heart racing as he tried to process what he had just done. As Jack fled the scene, the question that plagued his mind was simple, yet terrifying. What if Victor didn't wake up? What if his actions had caused irreversible harm? And who would be the one to expose him if the worst were to happen? Back in the office, Victor lay still on the floor, his body a testament to the physical toll of his age and his many ailments. But Victor Newman was nothing if not resilient. Slowly, painfully, he began to stir, his eyes fluttering open as he regained consciousness. This wasn't over. Far from it. Victor's mind, as sharp as ever despite his condition, immediately began piecing together what had just happened. Jack Abbott had attacked him, leaving him for dead. And now, Victor had the power to decide how to respond. Would he play the victim, using this incident to destroy Jack once and for all? Or would he take a different approach, one that would allow him to maintain his position of power while exacting his revenge in a more subtle, calculated manner? As Victor slowly pushed himself up from the floor, wincing in pain, he knew one thing for certain. This was war. And in war, there were no rules. Victor reached for the phone on his desk, his hand trembling as he dialed a number. The person on the other end picked up immediately, their voice crisp and professional. "Get me security," Victor ordered, his voice a low growl. "We have a situation." As Victor waited for help to arrive, he couldn't help but smile. Jack may have thought he had the upper hand, but Victor knew better. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. And as for Jack, he would soon learn that crossing Victor Newman was the biggest mistake.